Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Warning: this video is a candid exploration of the 2016 Grant Morrison, Wonder Woman, Earth 1, Volume 1. This video may also include discussions of violence, sexual situations, and drug use. By viewing beyond this point, you take responsibility for choosing to watch this video. All views expressed in this video are mine alone, and do not reflect any person or people, or any group or groups. Thank you, and please have a great day.
Hello and welcome to this video. I hope everyone's doing well, hope everyone's having fun, and I hope the universe is treating you fairly. Today's video, we are going to be discussing the 2016 Grant Morrison Earth 1 Volume 1 Wonder Woman. This is a beautiful book. Morrison is one of those mid to late 1980s. Was his heyday. That is where Grant Morrison became Grant Morrison. His Batman Arkham Asylum, his run on Doom Patrol, his run on Ant-Man, or not Ant-Man, Animal Man, excuse me, I messed that up, it's Animal Man, not Ant-Man. His run on the new X-Men, Batman and Robin Incorporated, that's when he made that that's when he made himself Grant Morrison. The like I said, him, Frank Miller, and Alan Moore, the 3Ms of the mid to late 1980s, maybe even early 1990s, in their day, in that 4 to 6 year time span, they pulled comic books. I mean, there are other authors at the time, but these are the three main ones. These are the three best. They pulled comic books away from the Adam West, Burt Ward Batman TV show, Silver Age, into the modern age. I think it's called the postmodern age now. I'm not sure, but they're the ones that put comic books on the more serious road. They're also the ones that ramped up the quality of art. They're the reason why we have the works of art that we have in modern comic books. Even if you don't read comics, even if you don't like comics, you have to look at the art at the same way you would look at something by Frank Frazetta or one of those artists. That is where we are artistically in comic books. And Morrison was one of those people that did that brought that to fruition. In this title, Morrison goes back to Wonder Woman's roots. I mean, all the way back to William Moulton Masterson. He was a psychologist. He was married to a woman named Edith Holloway, and they had a mutual girlfriend, Olive Bryan, Byrne, Bryan. They had kinky, I think would be an understatement. They were into BDSM. A lot of things that even today are still not mainstream. They're a little bit more accepted than they were. You know, at the time he created Wonder Woman in the late mid 1930s, 40s. Him and his wife invented the polygraph machine. His Wonder Woman, the lasso of truth, her bullet deflecting vambraces, all came out of the threesome's mutual enjoyment of BDSM. And this got rolled into the comics. In fact, Morrison puts it in this particular comic that if you truly respect somebody and truly love them, you will submit to their every whim and need. And Morrison brings this into this comic, into this graphic novel. And basically, they also went from, and this is real life things that they moved into the comic. The Wonder Woman, basically you had to train, particularly men, how to love. And it was controversial, and Marston. One of these days I am going to learn how to talk. I've been pronouncing it Masterson when it's Marston. His pen name was Charles Moulton. Interesting. He and his, like I said, the threesome. They Wikipedia lists it as polyamorous. I wouldn't say so, and this is based on my interactions with people that I know that are polyamorous, people that I know that are genderqueer, stuff like that. I would say this is more of a polygamy situation. One man, two women, that's all. People that I know that are polyamorous have multiple partners, multiple genders, multiple sexes, and it gets really weird really fast if you think about it for too long. Marston was inducted into the Comic Book Hall of Fame in 2006, which was way long overdue. But I'm beginning to drift away from this book. This book is basically, it starts out with Hercules raping Hippolyta, Wonder Woman's mom, and shackling her and doing all kinds of abusive things to her, what we would consider abusive in this day and age. And it was abusive. It was abusive in well, it is abusive. It's sexual assault, multiple sexual assaults, physical and mental abuse. Yeah, Morrison puts it right out there for us all to see. How she overcame it with help of Aphrodite. They overthrew Hercules, and she choked him out. She if you've seen Return of the Jedi, basically think Princess Leia choking out Jabba the Hutt, and that's kind of what she did to Hercules. Then we time jump about 3,000, 4,000 years, about 3,000 years. We have Diana, who's the youngest of the Amazons. You know, she's only about 2,500 years old. 2,500 to 3,000 years old. All of the other Amazons are much, much older. They've basically become an isolationist society. Hephaestus has a mirror in which she can look into men's world, because she is longing for a day when man, the masculine man, has matured enough to reunite with the Amazons. Unfortunately, not so much. There are overt and implied homosexual relationships between the Amazons. In fact, the lesbianism is overt between Diana and her girlfriend. So basically it starts, like I said, it starts with this rape, physical abuse, mental abuse, and it's, if you're squeamish on things like that, it's probably, you may want to give the first part of this book a skip. Like I said, and it is graphic. Not really graphic. We don't actually see any. We don't see the rape itself. It's implied, but the visuals that we do get are enough for anybody with any kind of imagination to stimulate your imagination to go, "Oh my God, what the fuck is going on here?" Like I said, then we jump. We have Diana, we'll call her 3,000 years old for simplicity of math. Which, this is kind of a side thing. In the Justice League movie, I believe it's in both the Whedon fuck up and the Snyder cut, that Cyborg and Flash are digging up Superman's grave, and Barry Allen makes things. What do you think? You think she likes younger men or what have you? Because he wants to hit on her, and Cyborg points out she's 3,000 years old. All men are younger men. So yeah, that's kind of the context we're looking at here. They have a ceremony, a thing they do, which is a recreation of Hephaestus overthrowing Hercules and liberating the Amazons. Due to Diana, or at least what Diana's been told, she was formed out of clay. The gods breathed on her, so she has super strength, super everything. She's stronger, more intelligent, faster, quicker, just everything just above the average Amazon. And the average Amazon is so much more than the average human in man's world. So yeah, she's like demigod status. So they're doing this. They've got this upcoming festival. It's never mentioned if they do it yearly, if they do it on the century, or when you're basically immortal. Tradition, festivals and traditions. You could do them once a year or once a decade, once a century, once a millennium. We don't know. It doesn't stay. It's just kind of there. However, Diana, because she is so much advanced to her Amazonian sisters, she isn't allowed to win. In fact, she has to play Hercules. She has to play the Hercules part because if she were to in any way go against, just straight up against her Amazonian sisters, she would win. There's no contest. And she's beginning to get tired of this shit. She's kind of burned out on it. So, and another side note. Morrison does not refer to the Amazonian island as Themyscira. He goes all the way back to Marston's Paradise Island. So that's kind of another nod. Like I said, Morrison embraced Marston's stuff. So during this festival, this reenactment, a U.S. and this isn't, they don't set this in World War II. They set this in the modern age. A plane wrecks, an American pilot by the name of Steve Trevor, wrecks on the island, and Diana finds him. Diana is fascinated because in the 3,000 years of her life, she's never seen a man in real life. She's never... And there's an exchange that gets kind of really awkward really fast about genitalia and things. And she's like, well, okay, you're hurt, but we've got technology. We're Amazons. We have advanced Amazonian technology. And they have a thing called the Purple Ray, which basically heals. There's a scene in the book where there's a deer falls off a cliff. Diana retrieves it and uses the Purple Ray. It sets up the Purple Ray to heal it. They also ride these giant kangaroo things. Just because I mention that because they're not really important, but they're just kind of cool to look at. And if you know anything about the reality of kangaroos, they look like kangaroos, but they're not going to rape you and murder you because, well, you're not a kangaroo type thing. These things are huge. In fact, there's a YouTube TikToker that does animal videos, and one of the ones that he does on kangaroos, he calls them roid rabbits. But these seem to be more docile and good for the Amazonians, to ride. But no, they find Steve Trevor, so she sneaks him in, goes to use the Purple Ray. The Purple Ray doesn't do anything to him, doesn't help him. And she realizes that she needs to take him back to where he came from. And to do that, she has to defy her mom win the challenge, and try to figure out how to get him back to man's world. So she does that. She pisses everybody off. You know, Diana single-handedly pisses off her mom, her girlfriend, and every Amazon on the island in one fell swoop. And the winner of this ritual, festival, challenge, whatever, gets whatever they want. They can pick one item and they get it. She chooses her girlfriend's invisible jet. And her girlfriend is a little bit pissed, is even more pissed. So there's a big breakout scene. She loads Steve Trevor onto the invisible jet. Basically, she's also learning English because the more she hears it spoken, she's able to learn it. She's able to learn grammar and sentence structure and all that simply by listening. You know, she's the whole advanced thing. So she takes Steve back, drops him off at a hospital, lands in the, right outside the hospital, takes him in. And she's offended by what she sees. She's offended by the state, the lack of progress, the inhumane way of treating illness, and that just really fucks her up. And because she has this super space aged jet, the military shows up. They try to capture her. They tell her to surrender. They don't know if Trevor's been compromised or what have you. And she's like, no. And she picks up a Jeep and throws it at him. And needless to say, the U.S. military is not real happy about looking stupid with all their tanks and their guns and their bullets, and this one single woman makes them look stupid. Yeah, it's embarrassing. Diana flees. She sees a bus. The weather's turned to shit. This bus loses control, starts to go off a bridge. Her, being her, saves it and pulls the bus to safety. And it turns out that's a sorority bus, Beta Lambda. Diana recognizes the Greek letters. She assumes that the sorority are her allies. And to a certain degree they are. And this is where we meet Beth Candy, who in the original Wonder Woman was Etta Candy, as in eating candy. Etta Candy, or Beth Candy, is plus size girl. And she's cool with it. Wonder Woman's not cool. Beth is cool with her body. She's cool with her sexuality. She's cool with, Grant Morrison with this character is trying to promote body positivity, sexual liberation. But because Grant Morrison is English and doesn't live in America, he kind of because Beth Candy is from Texas in this iteration. She's from Texas, and she's the rootinest, tootinest stereotype that an Englishman can come up with, and it is a stereotype. She's from Houston, Texas, and being married to somebody from Houston, Texas, Morrison. You see what Morrison's doing. You understand that he's promoting body positivity, what he's doing. But if you're from East Texas, you've been to Houston, you know people from Houston, it's kind of cringy. It's not, I wouldn't call it offensive. I wouldn't go as far as to say it's offensive, but I would definitely go as far to say it's cringy. It's obviously an Englishman trying to write a Texan. A stereotypical, like I said, she is the rootinest, tootinest stereotype you'll find in a comic book by an Englishman. You got to kind of take that with a grain of salt. And I do because, well, Grant Morrison is Grant fucking Morrison, so you know. So you have a series of events with the military and Steve Trevor. Steve Trevor lies his ass off because he realizes he would be fucking dead if he wasn't rescued. So he's lying his ass off to the military. Hypotheta is tired of daughter's shit. So they go down on the world. She taps Medusa, the Gorgon Medusa. And she takes an elite squad of her warriors along with Diana's girlfriend. And they go to man's world to retrieve Diana. And they do so. Medusa turns a whole bunch of people into stone. Steve Trevor being one of them. But once Diana sees what's going on, Diana's like, look, this shit's uncalled for. I'll submit. They put her in chain. They put her in literal chains, like on the cover. They put her on. They chain her up and they take her back to Paradise Island, where she goes on trial. And this is how the story. I told the story linearly, but the story is actually a flashback. The events with Diana and all, it's a flashback. It's a really good story. Really good art. Those are all the high points. Needless to say, because we have a volume 2 and a volume 3, Diana's found innocent. She also finds out in the course of the trial that basically her mom went and raped, before she killed Hercules, she raped Hercules and stole his seed. So Diana is Hercules' daughter. So it's Morrison went way back. Like I said, he went back to Wonder Woman's roots. So, like I said, check this out. If you like good storytelling and you're not things like BDSM and stuff doesn't bother you, or you're able to stomach it for the length of a novel, a graphic novel, check it out. But I will tell you, if things like BDSM, bondage, sexual ambiguities, Beth Candy is openly bisexual. So, and there's dildos and you know, all kinds of stuff. In fact, the Amazons try to body shame Beth Candy, and she gives them an earful. If things like that are palatable to you, check this out. It's worth it. It is more than worth it. If those things aren't palatable to you, probably give it a skip. So, until next time, everybody, be a good human. Be good to other humans. Peace.
Hey, it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?